An official from the terrorist group Hamas claiming that they have approved a list of 34 Israeli hostages to be returned as part of a possible Gaza ceasefire deal. But the office of Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's put out a statement saying Hamas has not provided a hostage list up to this moment. Israel and Hamas argued over the weekend on details of an agreement to halt fighting in the war-ravaged territory and bring those hostages home. David Mencer is a spokesperson for the Israeli government. Thanks for coming on the programme. Is this list of 34 hostages news to you, or has the government seen this list before?
So the list of hostages that has been published in the media was not provided to Israel by Hamas. Look, let's not forget they're a genocidal terrorist organization. The list was originally given by Israel to the mediators in July 2024. So once again, it's almost directly opposite, precisely opposite, as is reported in the media. I think it's very important to remember who we're dealing with. This is Hamas.
Hang on a second, just go back, Mr. Mencer. So you're saying that these hostages, this list is not necessarily Hamas saying these are the people we would release in exchange for Israeli troops and tanks removed from the Gaza Strip and an end to the fighting?
Look, Israel has not received this list. But more importantly, what we're looking for is not who's missing, who's been taken. We know who's been taken, for heaven's sake. We're looking for confirmation by Hamas regarding who is alive and who is dead and in what state of health they are. Why do we insist on that, Tom? I'll tell you why. It's so important to us that 459 days on now, we're dealing with a terrorist organization. We are focused on getting the living back first. We want the bodies too. Of course, yes. The families want their bodies too, but we want the living first, and also a guarantee that they are alive now and will be kept alive until they are released.
How important is it to Israel to get those people, those hostages, certainly the ones who are alive, back? How important is that?
Tom, I don't know if you've been in Israel over the last year and a half. This is an open wound in Israeli society. This is on the front of all of our minds. It's the number one focus of the Israeli government. It's all we talk about here. We know all of their names. We see the pain of their families all the time. We read about what the other hostages that have already been released have been through in Hamas captivity, including being branded like cattle. We insist on knowing whether they're alive or not, because we know that at any moment they can be executed, as was the case when we were close to rescuing some of our people. They were executed mafia style, jihadi style, on their knees with their hands tied behind their back. This is a jihadi terror group, and they need to commit to this one thing right now, to tell us who is alive and who is dead and in what state of health they're in.
The reason I ask is because there is a choice to be made here, certainly according to the terms of any potential ceasefire deal, which, as Hamas have made publicly pretty clear, if you want the hostages back, Israel needs to pull its forces out of Gaza. So which is of greater value, forces in Gaza or getting those hostages back?
Look, today in Israel, I can tell you that right now we have experts from the British government, hostage release experts from the British government, who are advising us, as well as hostage release experts from the US and from Canada and from Germany and from Austria. And we're holding these discussions with them. And they've come to Israel to support this mammoth task of getting our people home. I won't go through the details now. As prestigious as LBC is, I won't be negotiating on the air. But I can tell you that Israel is prepared to make painful compromises to get our people home. It's an open sore in society. It's an outrage to humanity that in this day and age, civilians are being held as hostages. They need to be set free right now. Israel will make painful compromises. I've already said that, and you can be sure that it's true.
Does Israel want to stay in Gaza indefinitely?
Tom, another question which I find bizarre. We already withdrew from Gaza in 2005. And the reason we did that was because we wanted Gazans to have a better future. Now, the future they chose was Hamas. They chose to turn it into a large terrorist camp. Now, from our point of view, we don't want to be in Gaza for one moment longer than we have to. But at the same time, we have a duty to ensure that the October 7th outrage does not happen again. And Hamas say, to this day, right now, they will do it again if they get the chance.
Yes.
So that is the dilemma which we in Israel here face.
You talk about the painful sacrifices that Israel is going to make as part of a deal to get hostages back. What chances would you give of the war ending, or at least a ceasefire agreement being made, in the next 6 months as Donald Trump comes to power?
Again, I'm not going to go down that road. I'm not going to negotiate in public, and I'm not going to give any projections for the future. The reason I say that is because we have been so close so many times. And as Antony Blinken has made crystal clear, it has been Hamas that has walked away every single time. And why does Hamas walk away, says Secretary Blinken? He says that whenever Hamas feel that Israel is under pressure internationally, that's when they walk away. So right now, the obligation is for the entire international community is to club together and put pressure on Hamas in the same way that they did when a BBC...
Absolutely.
When a BBC...
Mr. Mencer, it is also a choice that Israel could make to agree to the terms that are being offered, at least by Hamas, which I realise is very, very difficult for Israel, of course, but on the face of it is, you can have the hostages back if you stop the bombardment of Gaza.
So there's no bombardment of Gaza. There are targeted operations.
There are lots of bombs
to get
in
civilians.
Gaza.
There are targeted operations to get civilians out of harm's way. Look, let's set the parameters.
Well, hang on. No.
First things first.
The Israeli government could make that decision, couldn't it?
Tom, Hamas hate Gazans. Can we just get that point clear? Hamas designed this war to kill as many Gazans as they possibly could. That was
Israel
how they designed this war.
You
Israel
played into
has
Hamas
tried
designs.
No, I don't agree with that, Tom. We've tried our hardest to get people out of harm's way. In fact, the experts on urban warfare all say the same thing, that no other country faced with this sort of difficulty has done so much to get people, ordinary Gazans, out of harm's way.
I just bring you back finally, Mr. Mencer, to the choice that could have been made, however untenable and unlikely, that Israel could have made to say they will put in a ceasefire, as happened previously actually, that there would be a ceasefire in order to get, whether it's this 34 or a different number, back into Israel.
So, Tom, I'll say to you again, Israel will make painful compromises, has made painful compromises. I won't talk about the terms of the deal, but I'll leave it at that. We will play our part, as we have from the very beginning, since October the 7th, 2023. We want to get our people home. They are front and they're first and foremost in our minds. They're being held in inhumane conditions, and the report which we just submitted to the United Nations makes that clear, that they're being held in unimaginable cruelty. And right now, it's the job of the international community to put pressure on Hamas and their influencers in Qatar, in Turkey, and in other countries as well, to get our people out so we can bring an end to this conflict. Of course, if the hostages were released now and Hamas laid down its arms, the war would be over in an instant.
All right. Mr. Mencer, thank you for coming on. David Mencer, spokesperson for the Israeli government.